Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a journey into the life and work of Alan Turing, a British mathematician, computer scientist, logician, cryptanalyst, philosopher, and theoretical biologist, too.
It's an incredible list, isn't it? A truly astonishing range of influence.
It really is.
Yeah, Turing's contributions, they basically laid the very groundwork for theoretical computer science. And of course, were pivotal in cracking wartime codes.
Right.
And he even delved into, the mathematical principles behind biological forms. Just a remarkable intellect.
Precisely. So our goal today is to explore the core of his achievements and, well, his experiences, drawing from our compiled sources.
Okay.
Think of this as, getting a solid understanding of this monumental figure, uncovering some fascinating details, those aha moments, all without getting too bogged down.
Sounds good. And we're mainly using a comprehensive Wikipedia article for this.
That's right, yeah. For this deep dive, it gives a fantastic overview of his extraordinary life. Okay, so let's unpack this. Alan Matheson Turing, born in Maidavale, London, June 23rd, 1912.
And there's actually a blue plaque there now at his birthplace. A tangible link, really.
Yeah, it's quite something. His family background is interesting, too. Father in the Indian Civil Service.
Right, and his mother from an Anglo-Irish gentry family.
Exactly. And they wanted their children raised in Britain, so Alan was born in London while his father was on leave. He had an older brother, John.
And his early years were a bit unusual, weren't they? Spent between Hastings and even India for a time.
Yeah, living with a retired army couple while his parents were away. Then the family bought a house in Guildford, another blue plaque location now.
You wonder how that early separation might have shaped him, that independence, maybe a certain detachment.
Could well be. It might have contributed to his innovative thinking later on.
It's possible. So his schooling, St. Michael's first.
Yes, and apparently the headmistress there recognized his genius early on. Then Hazelhurst Prep, before Sherborne School at 13.
Ah, Sherborne. And his arrival there was quite dramatic, wasn't it, during the general strike?
It was. He cycled 60 miles on his own just to get there. 60 miles.
Talk about determination. Just shows his focus, maybe a disregard for convention even then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But his interest in science and maths wasn't exactly cheered on by all his teachers at Sherborne.
No, they were more focused on the classics, right? The headmaster worried he'd become only a scientific specialist.
Can you imagine? It highlights that old tension, doesn't it? Humanities versus sciences.
Definitely. But Turing just powered through. He was tackling advanced problems, understanding Einstein at 16, without specific lessons in it.
Just incredible. Now, during Sherborne, there was a really important friendship. Christopher Morcom.
Yes. Often described as Turing's first love. A very significant relationship.
It seems so. Morcom's death from bovine TB in 1930 was, well, devastating for Turing.
It had a huge impact. It seems he threw himself even deeper into the science and maths they'd shared, almost as a way to cope.
And he kept writing to Morcom's mother for years afterward.
Which really shows the depth of that bond, doesn't it? A way to keep that connection alive. And some suggest this loss might have, nudged him towards atheism or materialism later on. Though it's complex, he had other ideas about spirit and matter around then, too.
That's a really interesting point about his philosophical development. Okay, moving on. University. He got a scholarship to King's College, Cambridge.
Right, studied maths, got first-class honors. Solid start.
And his dissertation was on the Gaussian error function. He proved a theorem.
That had actually already been proven by Lindeberg, yeah. But his methods were original enough.
Original enough to get him elected a fellow of King's College, and he started lecturing there, too.
And this is when things get really interesting, right? Around 1935-36, he starts working on the limits of computation.
Exactly. Inspired by Gödel's incompleteness theorems. The idea that some true mathematical statements just can't be proven within their own system.
And Alonzo Church was working on similar things independently over in the States. Amazing convergence.
It really is. So 1936, Turing publishes On Computable Numbers with an application to the Entscheidungs problem.
Which many people call, the most influential maths paper ever.
You can see why. He introduces the Turing machine concept.
Yeah, this abstract idea of a machine that could compute anything computable. And he used it to show there's no general algorithm to solve the Entscheidungs problem, the decision problem.
Basically, proving the halting problem is undecidable.
Yeah.
Can a machine always tell if any given program will eventually stop?
And the answer is no. A fundamental limit.
And while Church had his lambda calculus proof,
Which was equivalent, mathematically speaking.
Turing's machine concept was just so much more intuitive, accessible.
Absolutely. The universal Turing machine idea, one machine that can simulate any other Turing machine, von Neumann himself said that was the key concept for the modern computer.
Incredible. Pure theory laying the foundation for our entire digital world.
So after Cambridge, he pops over to Princeton for a couple of years.
Yep, studies under Church, gets his PhD. His dissertation looked at ordinal logic, relative computing with oracles.
Yeah.
These hypothetical problem solvers.
Fascinating stuff. But he turned down a postdoc with von Neumann.
He did. Chose to return to the UK. A decision that turned out to be pretty significant.
Hugely significant, given what was coming. Back in Cambridge in '39, he's even debating Wittgenstein about the foundations of maths.
Defending formalism, and then, well, the war.
Right. He'd already started working part-time for the Government Code and Cipher School, GCNCS, from 1938.
Which soon moved to Bletchley Park. His initial focus with Dilly Knox was the German Enigma machine.
And they got a massive boost when the Polish Cipher Bureau shared their incredible early work on Enigma.
Absolutely vital information that allowed Turing and Knox to develop a much broader attack. Turing's approach used cribs.
Educated guesses about bits of the original message.
Yeah, exactly. You try likely phrases, look for contradictions, deduce the Enigma settings. And this led him to specify the bomb.
The electromechanical machine designed to automate that whole crib testing process. A game changer.
So, September 4th, 1939, day after war is declared, Turing reports to Bletchley Park, signs the Official Secrets Act.
And his work there was just phenomenal. 5 major cryptanalytic advances are credited to him.
The bomb specification. Figuring out the German Navy's indicator procedure.
Developing Banburismus and Turingery, we can maybe touch on those. And designing the Delilah Secure Voice Scrambler.
Plus, his use of statistics was groundbreaking. Those papers were only declassified in 2012.
Shows you the level of secrecy. And he definitely had a reputation at Bletchley, didn't he? Prof.
Oh, yeah. The gas mask for hay fever, chaining his mug to the radiator.
Counting his bicycle pedal turns to predict when the chain would fail. Classic.
Peter Hilton, who worked with him, called him a true genius, just fizzing with ideas.
And he was a serious runner, too. Near Olympic standard, ran to London for meetings sometimes.
Apparently used it for stress relief. You can imagine the pressure.
Immense pressure, and the payoff, ultra-intelligence, was enormous. Hinsley's estimate shortening the war by over 2 years, saving millions of lives.
It's staggering. He got an OBE in '46, but the work itself stayed secret for decades.
Let's look closer at the bomb. He specified it pretty quickly after arriving at Bletchley.
Yeah, a big step up from the Polish bomba. It used those cribs, the logical deductions, to churn through possible Enigma settings incredibly fast.
First one was running by March 1940.
But they needed more resources. By late '41, things were getting critical.
Which led to that famous memo, right? Turing and colleagues writing directly to Churchill.
The Action This Day memo. Bold move.
And it worked. Churchill scribbled "Action This Day" on it, and they got what they needed. More staff, more bombs.
Over 200 bombs operating by the end of the war. Incredible scale.
Now, Hut 8 and the Naval Enigma, that was Turing's initial domain, and it was notoriously difficult.
Much tougher than the Army or Air Force Enigma. But he cracked the main part of their indicator system by December '39.
And then conceived Banburismus, a statistical technique, wasn't it?
Yeah, a really clever way to use probability, based on sequences of letters, to reduce the number of bomb runs needed for naval messages. He measured weight of evidence in units called bands.
Bands. Later adapted into decibins for the Lorenz cipher, too.
His work took him to the U.S. in late '42 as well.
Right, collaborating with the U.S. Navy on Naval Enigma and their bomb construction. Though apparently he wasn't overly impressed with the American bomb design.
He also helped Bell Labs with secure speech systems while he was there.
Came back to Bletchley in March '43, became more of a general consultant. Hugh Alexander officially headed Hut 8 then.
But Alexander always stressed how crucial Turing's contribution had been. Indispensable, he called it.
Then there's Turingery. What was that?
That was his technique from mid-1942 for tackling the really complex Lorenz cipher, codenamed Tunny, used for high-level German messages.
So even more complex than Enigma.
Oh, yes. Turingery was about figuring out the settings, the wheel patterns of the Lorenz machine itself, wheel breaking.
And he brought Tommy Flowers into the Tunny work.
Exactly, which led Flowers to design and build Colossus, the first programmable electronic digital computer to help automate the Lorenz code breaking. So Turing had an indirect hand in Colossus.
Though not a direct designer of it. Interesting connection. And Delilah, the voice scrambler.
Yeah, he worked on that after his U.S. trip at Hounslow Park. designed and built this portable, secure voice machine with Donald Bailey.
But it was too late for the war.
Too late, yeah. Never adopted, even though it worked. He demonstrated it with a recording of Churchill's voice, apparently.
Wow. Still, his expertise fed into the Sigsaly system the Americans were developing.
So, but war ends. What's next? 1945, he's in Hampton, London, working at the National Physical Laboratory, NPL.
Designing the ACE, the automatic computing engine.
And in February 46, he presents the first really detailed design for a stored program computer. He even noted von Neumann's famous draft was less detailed and actually included some of his ideas.
But there were frustrations, right? The secrecy around his war work held things back.
Big time. Delays with ACE, disillusionment. He took a sabbatical year at Cambridge in 47.
Wrote some important stuff on intelligent machinery then, though it wasn't published in his lifetime.
And the pilot ACE, a smaller version, was built while he was away. Ran its first program in 1950. Influential machine.
The full ACE only got built after he died. He also met Konrad Zuse, the German computer pioneer, in 47.
Then, 1948, he moves to Manchester, appointed reader at the university.
Deputy director of the Computing Machine Laboratory there, working on software for the Manchester Mark I.
Wrote the first programmer's manual for it.
Okay.
And consulted for Ferranti on their commercial Mark I computer right up until his death.
While still doing abstract maths on the side. And then, 1950, the big paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence.
Introducing the Turing test. Can a machine fool a human into thinking it's human?
That iconic test for artificial intelligence, it's still debated today, massively influential.
His suggestion was fascinating. To simulate a child's mind, then educate it.
Sort of the basis for machine learning in a way. And the reverse is used in CarPTC chase now, isn't it? Telling humans from bots.
Right. He also worked on a chess program, Turochamp, with David Champernowne.
Didn't have a computer powerful enough to run it properly, so he ran it manually.
Yeah, played against colleagues. Lost one, reportedly won one. Garry Kasparov later said it played a recognizable game of chess. Pretty amazing for the time.
Then, just when you think you have him pegged, he pivots again. 1951, mathematical biology.
Completely different field. Publishes The Chemical Basis of Morphogenesis in 52.
Truly seminal work. He proposed reaction diffusion systems to explain how patterns, straps, spots form in biology.
Using complex maths, partial differential equations, to model how chemicals interacting and spreading could create these forms.
He had to use approximations because computing power was so limited then, but he got the qualitative idea across.
And amazingly, a Russian biochemist, Bilasov, had seen similar reactions experimentally years before, but neither knew of the other's work.
Turing's ideas are still fundamental in that field, explaining animal coats, feather patterns, lung branching.
Even left-right asymmetry in bodies. And that 2023 study confirming his model with chia seeds. It just shows the power of his thinking.
Incredible foresight. Now, his personal life had its own dramas and complexities.
Definitely. There's the story about burying silver bars near Bletchley during the war.
Worried about a German invasion, yeah. But then he couldn't find them again because he'd used his own code and the landscape changed.
Typical Turing, maybe.
Right.
And his engagement in 1941.
To Joan Clark, his colleague in Hut 8, very bright mathematician herself.
Oh, he broke it off. Told her he was homosexual.
Which she apparently took with understanding, but it points to the difficulties he faced personally.
Which led, tragically, to his prosecution. In late 1951, he met Arnold Murray.
They started a relationship, then Turing's house was burgled, Murray knew the burglar.
And when Turing reported it to the police, he was open about his relationship with Murray.
Which, under the laws at the time, led to him being charged with gross indecency. Homosexual acts were illegal.
That's awful. He pleaded guilty on legal advice in March 52.
And was given that terrible choice. Prison or probation with chemical castration, still Bustrol injections.
He chose the probation, the injections. The treatment lasted a year, caused impotence, physical changes, just horrific.
Murray got a conditional discharge, but for Turing, the consequences were devastating.
Lost his security clearance, couldn't work for GCHQ anymore.
Though he kept his university post at Manchester, thankfully. But the timing was terrible too, wasn't it, with the Cambridge spies defecting?
Yeah, it fueled paranoia and prejudice against homosexuals as supposed security risks. He couldn't even enter the U.S.
He did travel elsewhere in Europe, but it must have been an incredibly difficult, isolating time. He started seeing a psychiatrist.
And then, the end. June 8th, 1954. Found dead by his housekeeper, only 41.
Post-mortem said cyanide poisoning, likely on June 7th. The half-eaten apple beside the bed.
Led to the enduring image, the speculation. though the apple itself was never tested for cyanide.
The inquest ruled it suicide, but his mother never accepted that verdict.
And there are alternative theories out there.
Oh, yes. Accidental inhalation from his chemistry experiments. He did electroplating with cyanide. Jack Copeland championed that idea.
Or accidental ingestion from careless storage. His mother believed that.
Andrew Hodges, his biographer, suggested maybe he staged it to look accidental to spare his mother, or the Snow White connection.
More speculative, perhaps. But there are real questions about the suicide verdict. Found neatly in bed, apparently no prior signs.
John Dawson Jr. raised serious doubts, and there's that odd detail about him visiting a fortune teller shortly before, which reportedly upset him. It's murky.
A deeply sad and unresolved end. But thankfully, the narrative has shifted over time.
Immensely, starting with that 2009 petition leading to Gordon Brown's apology.
Calling the way Turing was treated appalling. A landmark moment.
Followed by the campaign for a pardon supported by people like Stephen Hawking.
Which resulted in the Queen granting a royal pardon on Christmas Eve 2013. A formal acknowledgement of the injustice.
Absolutely crucial. And then the Alan Turing law in 2017.
Right, retroactively pardoning other men convicted under those same historical laws. A wider act of reparation.
And now, talk of a statue on Trafalgar Square's fourth plinth, recognizing him as a greatest war hero.
It feels like a necessary correction of history, doesn't it?
It really does. These steps, they can't change what happened, but they matter deeply in how we remember him and acknowledge the wrong that was done.
Absolutely. Alan Turing's life, well, it was just extraordinary in its breadth and depth. Fundamental work in maths, computing, even biology.
Groundbreaking stuff across the board. But alongside that, the immense personal struggles, the persecution, the injustice, it's heartbreaking.
It really is. His early death was such a loss.
Yeah.
The posthumous recognition, the apology, they're vital acknowledgments of his true legacy.
Definitely.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Just consider how profoundly Turing's foundational ideas still shape our world. Our technology, our debates about AI.
Everything.
And maybe reflect on what other incredible breakthroughs we might have seen if his life hadn't been cut so tragically short. What else might he have achieved?